A black mechanic performs a miracle on the disabled son of an Arab millionaire. What happened next changed everyone's lives forever. The boy took his first step. His legs trembled inside the metal braces, but he was standing. Alone. Without the wheelchair. Without his father's hands holding him. 10 years old. 6 years without walking. The scream that came from the father's throat wasn't human. It was something primitive, visceral. The sound of a man who had given up believing in miracles and was now watching one happen before his eyes. Adam. My son. Khalil al-Mansour, one of the richest men in the Middle East, fell to his knees on the dirty concrete floor of a mechanic shop on the outskirts of Houston. His designer clothes touched the grease. His tears wet his face. And he didn't care. Because his son was walking. The woman who had made it possible stood 3 meters away, holding a screwdriver, covered in oil, her eyes watery but her smile contained. Her name was Diane Carter. 36 years old. Black. Mechanic. Widow. And she had just done what 12 of the world's best specialists couldn't. But to understand how we got to this moment, we need to go back 5 days. It was a sweltering Tuesday when the convoy of luxury cars stopped in front of Carter & Son's garage. 3 black SUVs with tinted windows, the kind of vehicle that never appeared in that neighborhood. Diane was under an old pickup truck when she heard the engines. She rolled out and stood up, wiping her hands on a rag already stained with grease. What she saw made her frown. A man in an impeccable suit got out of the middle car. Behind him, 2 bodyguards. And lastly, being carried in the arms of another employee, a boy. The boy wore orthopedic braces on both legs. Metal structures that went from ankles to thighs. He looked uncomfortable, his face contracted in an expression of silent pain. The man in the suit approached Diane with quick steps. Are you the owner of this garage? Diane nodded, suspicious. My car has a problem with the hydraulic system. My driver said this was the nearest garage. Diane looked at the vehicles. Each one was worth more than her entire house. I can take a look. But you'll have to wait. I'm alone today. The man seemed irritated by the response, but before he could speak, the boy interrupted. Dad, it's hurting again. The voice was weak, almost a whisper. Diane saw the man's face change completely. The arrogance disappeared, replaced by something she knew all too well. Desperation. Hassan, put Adam in the shade. Now. The employee carried the boy to an old bench at the garage entrance. Diane watched as the father knelt beside his son, adjusting the braces with trembling hands. Something about that scene made her stop. She knew that kind of pain. She knew that kind of desperate love. She knew the feeling of watching someone you love suffering and not being able to do anything. Diane approached slowly. May I see? The father looked up, confused. See what? His braces. Hassan, the driver, stepped forward. Mr. Al-Mansour, I don't think a car mechanic has the qualifications to. I asked the father, Diane interrupted, without looking away. Not you. Khalil al-Mansour studied her face for a long moment. There was something there he couldn't identify. A certainty. A calm. Why do you want to see? Diane knelt beside the boy, looking directly at him. What's your name? Adam. Adam, do these braces hurt you? The boy hesitated, looking at his father as if asking permission to be honest. All the time, he whispered. Diane nodded and turned her gaze to the braces. She ran her fingers over the metal joints, the straps, the pressure points. And then she saw it. What no one else had seen. The problem wasn't medical. It was mechanical. Diane stood up, her face serious. Who made these braces? Khalil answered with forced pride. The best medical equipment company in Europe. They cost $200,000. Diane slowly shook her head. They stole your money. The silence that followed was tense. Hassan stepped forward, indignant. How dare you? Mr. Al-Mansour consulted the best specialists in the world. Diane ignored the driver and looked directly at Khalil. The specialists looked at your son's body. No one looked at the machine he uses. The joints are locked at the wrong angle. The weight distribution is completely unbalanced. Every step he tries to take puts pressure in the wrong places. She pointed to one of the joints. This isn't a medical problem. It's an engineering problem. And engineering I understand. Khalil remained silent, processing the words. Adam tugged at his father's sleeve. Dad, let her try. Please. There was something in the boy's voice. Something Diane recognized immediately. Hope. The last spark of hope that remained. What no one there knew was that Diane Carter had her own reasons for understanding that pain. Reasons she kept locked in a box at the bottom of her heart, along with old photographs and a wedding ring she no longer wore. If you're enjoying this story, subscribe to the channel now. Because what Diane is about to discover about these braces will change everything. Khalil Al-Mansour was not a man accustomed to hearing no. He had built a hotel empire that stretched across 3 continents. He negotiated with presidents, sheiks, and tycoons. He had access to the best doctors, the best clinics, the best technologies on the planet. And yet, his son remained trapped in that chair. That night, after fixing the hydraulic problem on the SUV in less than 2 hours, Diane made a proposal. Give me 5 days. If I can't improve Adam's situation, you leave and never have to think about me again. But if I can. She didn't finish the sentence. Khalil studied her for a long moment. Why would you do this? What do you want? Diane held his gaze without hesitation. Nothing. I don't want anything. Hassan let out a sarcastic laugh. Everyone wants something, sir. She'll probably ask for millions when. Hassan. Khalil's voice cut through the air like a blade. Silence. The driver stepped back, but his look of distrust remained fixed on Diane. Adam, who had been watching the conversation in silence, tugged at his father's sleeve again. Dad, I want to stay. Please. There was something in the boy's voice that Khalil hadn't heard in years. It wasn't just hope. It was determination. That night, Khalil rented the best suite at the best hotel in Houston. But the next morning, at 7 o'clock, he and Adam were already back at Carter & Son's garage. Diane was waiting for them with Adam's braces completely disassembled on her workbench. Khalil's eyes widened. What did you do? My job. She pointed to the scattered pieces. See this? The knee joints. They were designed to lock at a 15-degree angle. Do you know what the natural angle of knee flexion is during walking? Khalil shook his head. Between 0 and 60 degrees, depending on the phase of the step. These braces were forcing Adam to walk like a robot, not like a person. Every step was a fight against the structure itself. She picked up another piece. And this? The pressure points. They're positioned directly over the most sensitive nerves in the leg. That's why he feels constant pain. The company that made this prioritized appearance over functionality. Adam listened to everything attentively, his eyes shining. So it's not my leg's fault? Diane knelt to be at his level. No, Adam. Your legs aren't the problem. The problem is that no one asked them how they wanted to move. For the first time in a long time, Adam smiled for real. The following days were intense. Diane worked until late at night, sometimes until 3 in the morning. She redesigned every component. Replaced heavy steel with lightweight aluminum. Created new joints with 3 times the range of motion. Repositioned every contact point to avoid pressure on the nerves. Adam spent his afternoons at the garage, watching fascinated as she worked. He asked questions about every tool, every process. Diane answered with patience, explaining everything in simple terms. Why are you a mechanic? Adam asked on the 3rd day. Diane stopped what she was doing. Her eyes got lost for a moment somewhere distant. My father had this garage. He taught me everything. He said machines are honest. They don't lie, don't pretend, don't betray. If something is wrong, you find the problem and fix it. She paused. People are more complicated. Adam noticed there was sadness behind those words, but didn't press. On the 4th day, Hassan approached Diane while she was working alone. I know what you're doing. Diane didn't look up. I'm working. What does it look like I'm doing? You're trying to get close to Mr. Al-Mansour. Gain his trust. Then you'll ask for money, fame, whatever. Diane finally stopped and stared at the driver. Hassan, have you ever loved someone truly? Someone you would give your life to protect. The man was silent. I had a son. His name was Daniel. He had a degenerative muscle disease. The doctors said he would never walk. I spent 5 years studying, researching, building equipment to help him. Diane's eyes filled with tears, but her voice remained steady. He got an infection at the hospital. 3 days later, he was gone. She went back to work. The garage is called Carter and Sons because of him. I don't want your boss's money. I want Adam to have the chance my son never had. Hassan remained still for a long moment. When he finally left, he said nothing more. That night, Diane finished the new braces. They were completely different from the originals. Lighter, more flexible, with a design that respected the natural anatomy of the legs instead of fighting against it. She held them up to the light, checking every angle, every joint, every detail. Her phone vibrated. A message from Khalil. Adam can't sleep. He's too anxious about tomorrow. Thank you for giving my son hope. Diane read the message 3 times. Hope. It was a dangerous word. She knew that better than anyone. On the morning of the 5th day, everyone gathered at the garage. Khalil was tense, his hands restless. Hassan kept his distance, but his eyes no longer carried the same distrust as before. Adam was sitting in his wheelchair, looking at the new braces with a mixture of fear and expectation. Diane knelt before him. Adam, I need you to understand something. These braces will give you support. But the one who will walk is you. It will be difficult at first. Your legs will tremble. You might fall. But I'll be here. Your father will be here. You're not alone. The boy swallowed hard and nodded. I'm ready. Diane began putting on the braces, adjusting each strap with precision. When she finished, she extended her hands to Adam. Whenever you want. No rush. Adam took a deep breath. He held Diane's hands and began to stand up. Adam's legs trembled violently. Diane held his hands firmly but wasn't pulling. The effort had to come from him. Slowly, Adam. Feel your feet on the ground. The boy clenched his teeth. Sweat ran down his forehead. 6 years. 6 years without feeling his own weight on his legs. Khalil was 2 meters away, fists clenched, fighting the urge to run and hold his son. Hassan had moved closer without realizing, his eyes fixed on the boy. Adam managed to stand. His legs still trembled, but the braces were doing their job. The weight was distributed correctly. The joints moved smoothly. There was no pain. Diane, Adam whispered. It doesn't hurt. I know, sweetheart. I know. Now try to take a step. Just one. When you're ready. Adam looked at his father. Khalil nodded, unable to speak. The boy took a deep breath, shifted his weight to his left leg, and moved his right forward. The step was small, maybe 10 centimeters. Clumsy, shaky, but it was a step. Khalil's scream echoed through the garage. Adam took another step, and another. Tears began to stream down his face, but he didn't stop. He kept walking toward his father, each step steadier than the last. When Khalil finally embraced him, both fell to their knees on the concrete floor. The billionaire sobbed like a child, clutching his son as if afraid he would disappear. My boy is walking. Diane stepped back in silence, giving them space for the moment. Her own eyes were wet, but she smiled. A sad and happy smile at the same time. It was the smile of a mother who never had that chance. Hassan approached her. I owe you an apology. Diane shook her head. You were protecting them. You don't need to apologize for that. The driver was silent for a moment. Your son would be proud of you. Diane didn't respond. She just nodded and went back to watching Adam, who was now walking in circles around the garage, testing his new limits. 2 hours later, Khalil approached Diane with a serious expression. How much do I owe you? Diane was cleaning her tools, putting each one in its place. Nothing. That's impossible. You worked 5 full days. You used your materials. You lost other customers. I insist. Diane turned to face him. Mr. Al-Mansour, I didn't do this for money. I did it because your son deserved a chance. Just like mine did. Khalil frowned. Your son. Diane hesitated. It wasn't a story she told often. But something in that man's eyes made her trust him. Daniel. He was born with a disease that weakened his muscles. The doctors said he would never walk. I spent 5 years trying to prove them wrong. She paused. I was getting close. I had built an adapted exoskeleton, something that would support his muscles while they strengthened. There were only a few weeks left until the test. Diane's eyes got lost somewhere distant. He got an infection at the hospital. 3 days later, he was gone. The silence in the garage was absolute. Even Adam had stopped walking, listening to the story. Khalil swallowed hard. I'm so sorry. Me too. Diane took a deep breath. After he died, I put away all the projects. All the research. I thought I would never use them again. But when I saw Adam, when I saw the pain in his eyes. She looked at the boy. I saw my son. I saw the chance he never had. Adam walked slowly to Diane. Without saying anything, he hugged her. It was a clumsy hug. He still didn't have enough balance to stand still for long. But Diane held him tight, and for the first time in 5 years, she let the tears fall freely. Khalil watched the scene with a heavy heart. In that moment, he understood something important. That woman hadn't just fixed his son's braces. She had fixed something inside herself. That night, Khalil made a phone call. I want to buy the building next to Carter's garage. And the land behind it too. The voice on the other end hesitated. Sir, those properties aren't for sale. Everything is for sale. Find the price. The next morning, Khalil returned to the garage with an envelope. Diane frowned when she saw him. I already said I don't want money. This isn't money. It's an invitation. She opened the envelope. Inside was a letter and a series of documents. The letter said, Diane, you gave me back my son. I can't give you anything that compensates for that. But I can give you a chance to do for others what you did for Adam. I'm founding a rehabilitation center in Houston dedicated to children with motor disabilities. I want you to be the director of engineering. The salary will be whatever you want. The team will be whoever you choose. The only requirement is that no child will be turned away for not being able to pay. Diane read the letter 3 times. Her hands were trembling. This is crazy. It's justice, Khalil replied. You have a gift. A gift that can help hundreds, maybe thousands of children. I have money. A lot of money. Money that means nothing if my son can't walk. Now he can. And I want to use that money to give other families what you gave mine. Diane looked at Adam, who had entered the garage walking. Still with the braces, still a bit shaky, but walking. The boy smiled at her. Say yes, Diane. Please. She looked at the letter again. At the tools on her workbench. At the dusty photo of Daniel on the wall. Her boy. Her Daniel. The son she couldn't save. But maybe, just maybe, she could save others. I have one condition, Diane said. Khalil nodded. Anything. The center will be called Daniel Carter. In memory of my son. Khalil extended his hand. Deal. The Daniel Carter Center was inaugurated 6 months later. The building occupied an entire block on the outskirts of Houston. 3 floors of modern facilities, state-of-the-art equipment, and a team of engineers, physical therapists, and doctors working side by side. At the main entrance, a bronze plaque read, "In memory of Daniel Carter, who taught us that a mother's love can move mountains." Diane was standing before the plaque when Khalil approached. Nervous. She let out a light laugh. I've fixed engines my whole life. Now I have a team of 20 people calling me director. Nervous isn't quite the word. Terrified. That's more accurate. Khalil smiled. You'll do fine. You always do. The inauguration ceremony brought together hundreds of people. Journalists, doctors, businesspeople, families of children with disabilities. Everyone wanted to know the story of the mechanic who had made a boy walk. But Diane wasn't interested in the spotlight. She was looking at the line of children waiting outside. Children in wheelchairs, with orthopedic braces, with crutches. Children whose parents had traveled from other states just to have a consultation. The center's first official patient was named Sophia, 8 years old. Cerebral palsy. Her parents were Mexican immigrants who worked on a farm in rural Texas. They had no health insurance. They had no money for specialists. Diane spent 3 weeks studying her case. She built a personalized support system that took into account every detail of her condition. And on the day of the test, when Sophia took her first independent steps, her mother fell to her knees crying. Just like Khalil had done. Just like Diane wished she could have done with Daniel. The following months were intense. The center served an average of 15 new families per week. Diane trained engineers, supervised projects, and still found time to work personally on the most complex cases. Her old garage continued operating. She didn't want to close it. She kept the name, Carter & Sons. She hired 2 young mechanics to take care of the cars, but visited whenever she could. That was where she felt at home. Adam became a constant presence at the center. At 11 years old, he walked with increasing confidence. He still used the braces, but now he could climb stairs, run short distances, even play soccer with other children. He developed an interest in engineering that surprised everyone. He spent hours in Diane's workshop, observing the processes, asking questions, learning. "When I grow up, I want to do what you do," he said one day. Diane smiled. "And what is that?" "Give people hope." 1 year after the inauguration, the Daniel Carter Center had served more than 400 families. Success stories multiplied. Newspapers and magazines published articles. Universities requested research partnerships. But for Diane, the most important number was another one. 112. That was the number of children who had taken their first steps inside that center. Children that doctors had given up on. Children whose families had no resources. Children who, like Daniel, deserved a chance. On an autumn afternoon, Diane was alone in the center's workshop, working on a new prototype. The door opened and Hassan entered. The driver had changed a lot since that first day at Carter & Sons' garage. He had resigned from his job with Khalil to become the center's transportation coordinator, ensuring that no family had difficulty getting to appointments. "There's a visitor for you outside." Diane frowned. "I don't have any meetings scheduled." "I know. But I think you'll want to see this." She followed him to the main entrance. Standing there was a woman of about 60 years old, gray hair, tired eyes but full of hope. Beside her, a girl of approximately 7 years old in a wheelchair. The woman stepped forward. "Are you Diane Carter?" "That's me. My name is Ruth. This is my granddaughter, Emily. The doctors said she'll never walk. But I saw a report about you. About what you did for the Arab boy. I drove 12 hours to get here." Ruth paused, her eyes watery. "Please. I don't have money. I don't have anything. I only have her." Diane looked at Emily. The girl had big, curious eyes. Eyes that painfully reminded her of Daniel. She knelt before the wheelchair. "Hi, Emily. My name is Diane. Do you like machines?" The girl nodded timidly. "I like them too. And you know what? I think we're going to be great friends." Ruth began to cry. "So you'll help?" Diane stood up and looked at the grandmother. "That's why this place exists." That night, after Ruth and Emily left with an appointment scheduled for the following week, Diane stayed alone at the center. She walked to the bronze plaque at the entrance. She ran her fingers over the letters of her son's name. "I couldn't save you, my love. But I promise I'll keep trying. For you. For all the children who still need a chance." A tear rolled down her face. "I love you, Daniel. Forever." Outside, the sun was setting over Houston, painting the sky orange and gold. And inside the Daniel Carter Center, hope remained alive. Sometimes, miracles don't come from grand places. They come from dusty garages, from calloused hands, from hearts that refuse to give up. They come from ordinary people who choose to do the extraordinary. Diane Carter was a mechanic, a widow, a mother who lost her son. But she became something more. She became living proof that love doesn't die. It transforms. And when it finds a purpose, it can change the world. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and leave in the comments, do you know someone who deserves a miracle? Tell us about it. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any story. Because here, we believe that hope is something you build, one piece at a time.